I can't tell you how happy I am to be here in Bhubaneswar and in this conclave. I'll mix up a little bit of English and Odia. I grew up here. Mu Bhubaneswar pila. जो डीएम स्कूल अच्छी सेठी पढ़ी थी बीजेपी कॉलेज अच्छी सेठी पढ़ी थी तापर एक्सआईएम अभी का बोलते जेवियर यूनिवर्सिटी कहा जाए आई स्टडीड देयर एंड देन आई वेंट आउट रामकृष्ण मठ भुवनेश्वर तांकर आई बिकेम अ monk of this order and I went to different places as part of my monastic life, but I'm always happy to meet people from Odisha, and to especially a connection with Jagannath culture is very, very deep in me. Abhika mu achi New York re Vedanta Society of New York. Ame sabu janchu Swami Vivekananda ka katha ke na janchanti. He went to the World Parliament of Religions in Chicago in 1893 and tanku jo bikhyato baktrita Chicago re September 11, 1893. Kintu maybe many people don't know that right after that, a group of New Yorkers caught him and asked him to start teaching in New York. So, tanko pratham ashram jo pratishtha karle, Swami Vivekananda, he started in New York in 1894. That's in fact the first Indian ashram outside India. Certainly the first Indian ashram in the US. If you discount the Theosophical Society was already there before that. See, New York, in fact, you'll be happy to know, Indian Consul General ji achanti abhika se Odisha ru, Binay Pradhan achanti, and he's doing a wonderful job of promoting Odisha and Oriya culture and Oriya business also in America through New York. I have seen wonderful Oriya communities across the United States. I've given talks to the various groups of Oriya organizations across the United States on Jagannath culture. I remember I was so happy to participate in Houston, in Texas, in the inauguration of a Jagannath Mandir there. There's a wonderful Dr. Pati there who organized that temple, and it's a flourishing temple there, and I was there for the inauguration. So today, I want to talk a little bit about Odisha. Not only the present of Odisha, but the golden future of Odisha and the golden past of Odisha. Just a couple of days ago, I was in this new IIT Bhubaneswar. Now you don't know, especially the young people here, for those of us who are of an older generation, the emotions it arouses in us. When we hear of IIT Bhubaneswar, when we hear of AIMS Bhubaneswar, that how Bhubaneswar, Odisha and Bhubaneswar has become once again an education hub, a center of education in this country. And I'm saying once again because in IIT Bhubaneswar I was telling them, I saw the hostels and the academic blocks, the names they have given, Udayagiri, Khandagiri, Ratnagiri, Lalitgiri. Now if you go to those places, you will find it's a huge complex of caves where more than 1,000 years ago, 1500 varsha aguru, there were thousands of Buddhist and Jain monks who lived there, studied there, meditated there. Aji jo ame so Bharatiya darshan ra katha kahuchu, desha bhitare bishesh kari desha bahare, the Vedanta we are talking about, the yoga philosophy we are talking about, the Nyaya philosophy we are talking about, part of it was developed right here. It's a forgotten part of our history. Now excavations are showing how vast that complex is, where so many scholars, so many monks, they studied and meditated and developed these systems. Ajijo, throughout the world, Tibetan Buddhism is very popular. Buddhism in general is very popular, but Tibetan Buddhism is very popular thanks to His Holiness the Dalai Lama and the works of many other lamas and monks. But as His Holiness the Dalai Lama says, whatever we have in Tibet is actually the Nalanda culture of India. It's just someone just download karni chand. And a great deal of that was developed right here in Odisha. and it's a forgotten chapter. We do not know the depth of Oriya Buddhism. So this part of that culture, I was telling them, 1,000+ years ago, our ancestors here, they developed a very high culture of intellectual achievement. And once again, the tide has turned, and we are seeing how Odisha has become already a hub for education, known across the length and breadth of India. Jagannath culture, very ancient. Most of us have a personal link to Purushottama Kshetra through Sri Jagannath. I also have a personal link. It's a story I have not told in public earlier, but I can share with you all because that's the subject today. Mu sannyasi hava purvaru, seteବେଳେ exam re ପଢୁଥିଲି. I was an MBA student there. So dine a group of us, we decided ame jiba Puri ko. Mostly people were interested in picnic, but some of us, we went to Jagannath Mandir. And at that time I had already decided that I want to become a monk. And so a young man, I did not know whether it's possible or not, whether I can actually become a monk or not. But I still remember, I went to Jagannath Mandir, and in front of the deity, I prayed that Mate Asirvad Karantu ki mu sannyasi hei pare. I still remember. I really believe it is by the grace, Tanko Kripare, Sri Jagannath Kura Asirvad, that I have been able to become a monk. A job heichi. I feel it is because of the grace of Sri Jagannath. Extremely powerful place. It is one of the pillars of Hinduism and Indian culture, the Jagannath culture. It goes all the way back to the beginnings, to the Vedas. You find references there, and across the Puranas, you will find multiple references to the Jagannath culture there. Daru Brahma is referred to in the ancient texts. But it's about 1,000 years ago, about 1,200 years ago, that the thing became even more interesting. Let me give you a little footnote on Vedanta. It's the philosophy of Hinduism. But Vedanta has many schools. There's Advaita Vedanta, Vishishtadvaita, Dvaita Vedanta, and many, many schools of Vedanta. So many may not be aware. Vedanta jo grantha achi, ta vitare got pramukha grantha gote hochi. Of course, Upanishads are there. Bhagavad Gita is the most well known. But there is one book which is not so well known, but it deserves to be better known. E grantha hochi Brahma Sutra. So that's the philosophical basis of Vedanta. Now, here is an interesting thing. A Brahma Sutra jo vyakhya likichanti, Sanskritare bhashya likichanti. So these, if you write a bhashya and it's accepted by the Pandit Samaj, then you are given the title of Acharya. Ija ame sunuchu, Shankaracharya, Ramanujacharya. The thing is, the technical side of that is, these are the masters who wrote commentaries on Brahma Sutra. So if you have a distinct new commentary on Brahma Sutra, you have the right to establish a new school of Vedanta, Nuva Vedanta Parampara. So these are ancient paramparas, but the Bhashyakaras, they wrote commentaries on Brahma Sutra. Shankaracharya, Shankara likhile Brahma Sutra Bhashya, Atoeb Shankaracharya. He is the Acharya of the Advaita Vedanta Parampara. Ramanuja likhile, Sri Ramanuja likhile Sri Bhashya. Atoeb, he is the Acharya, Ramanujacharya of the Sri Vaishnava Parampara, the Vishishta Dvaita Parampara. Madhvacharya wrote a Bhashya according to the Dvaita Mata. So he is the Acharya, Madhvacharya of the Dvaita Vedanta Parampara. Nimbarka Acharya wrote a commentary on Brahma Sutra. He is the Acharya of what is called the Nimbarka Sampradaya, Dvaitadvaita Vedanta. Vallabhacharya, he wrote a commentary on Brahma Sutra, and therefore he is the Acharya of the Shuddhadvaita Parampara of Vedanta. Like this. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of course, he did not write a commentary on Brahma Sutras, but he is at the source of what is known as the Achintya Bheda Veda school of Vedanta. So these are all various schools of Vedanta. Why am I saying this? Prasangikata kana? All of them came to Sri Jagannath Kshetra. All of them, without exception. Imta ko jaga nahi Bharatvarsare, joti samastika samagama hechi, except Puri Kshetra, Jagannath Kshetra. Adi Shankaracharya, it begins with that. He has written wonderful verses on Jagannath, Jagannatha Swami, Nayana Pathagami, Bhavatu me, Adi Shankaracharya. There is a story, I don't know how true it is. It is said that at that time, the image of Sri Jagannath was missing, and Adi Shankaracharya discovered it. Seତେବେଳେ ସେଇ ସ୍ତୋତ୍ର କରିଛନ୍ତି Jagannath Swami Nayana Pathagami Bhavatu Me. There is also some historical reference that one temple was constructed, one of the earliest versions of the Jagannath temple was constructed, and Adi Shankaracharya se murtira prana pratishtha se karthele emte reference mile amuku. And that was only the beginning. Within a few centuries of that comes Ramanujacharya. So Ramanujacharya is the great Acharya Vishishtadvaita Vedanta. Aji bi Dakshinare, the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, tanko Acharya hochanti Ramanujacharya. Many people in Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, they follow Ramanujacharya. He came to Puri, Ajitu Pray, 1000 Varsha Guru. And, see, this is an interesting thing. All these great masters, their attempt, their attempt was to bring the entire Jagannath culture and the Puri culture under their sampradaya. Mane mu chauchi je Jagannath should be a center of Advaita Vedanta. Ki mu chauchi Jagannath should be a center of Vishishta Advaita. Like this. But what happened actually was, all of these traditions were absorbed into Jagannath. Not that Jagannath was absorbed into those traditions. And that led to the Jagannath culture became even more and more rich. Auri samriddha hela. Ramanujacharya, for example, he was very influential. In fact, many of the rituals which are followed today, the sources are Ramanujacharya. Asu chesta kortile tankor pancharatra system re pura Jagannath culture ko sei ade nei jivaku. But that he did not succeed. But the teachings of Ramanujacharya were absorbed into the Jagannath culture. For example, Lakshmi ka puja. Lakshmi no mandira jota hela. So that is part of the Sri Vaishnavism, Vishishtadvaita Vedanta. Mane achi amar ashram re Kalikata re jane bahut pragada pandita astele tanko tradition ro Sri Lakshmi Tatacharya. She was introducing us to Vishishtadvaita Siddhanta. And he said, we worship Narayana. And then he looked at sannyasis, we were sitting on one side, he looked at us and smiled humorously. He said, Narayana, we worship Lakshmi Narayana, not Brahmachari Narayana. So the puja of Lakshmi was instituted by Ramanujacharya. And Bhakti Siddhanta also came there. After that, Nimbarkacharya, Jahankar Shishya Hochanti Jayadeva, in the same tradition, the Gita Govinda Likhchanti, he is in the Nimbarka tradition. Vallabhacharya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ke samare bhi asthele Puri Khetra re. Madhvacharya, we have some evidence that he also came here. In fact, one of his disciples, Narahari Tirtha, was actually a minister in the government. Settavade, taku kuhajayatla, governor kuhajayatla, se mandalika kuhajayatla. So he was a part of the administration of Kalinga at that time. So like this, you have all the acharyas of Vedanta coming to Puri and staying and teaching there. Many of them established ashrams in and around Jagannath there. Not only that, some of the greatest saints of India, Ramananda, Kabir Dasji, and Guru Nanak, they came to Puri and established ashrams there or monasteries there. So, throughout the history of India, Jagannath Kshetra was seen as one of the spiritual magnets of Hinduism. And any great master in Hinduism, Banaras jibe, theek hai, that's right. But Puri Kshetra, the Jagannath Kshetra, they will come. Many other aspects. Jayadeva came afterwards. Gita Govinda Lekhile, that became so popular, it became part of Jagannath worship. So Gita Govinda is daily chanted in front of the Sri Jagannath. Because of him, this avatar culture, the Dashaavatar culture. So Jayadeva wrote the Dashaavatar Stotram. And from that time onwards, it became part of the Jagannath culture. So we avatar ko puja karchanti, Rama, Krishna, anya Dashaavatar achanti, sabu achanti Jagannathankara avatar. Jagannath hochanti Avatari. Avatar means descent. Now in Hollywood also they have adopted the term. So there are avatar movies now. And they have, in computer science also, there are avatars. In virtual reality, you can put your avatar in. But the idea, the term, of course the word has come from Sanskrit, and in the same meaning, that somebody has represented or come down into this sphere in a representative form. So Ishwarankar avatar huye, and we accept Rama, Krishna and others as avatar of God. Jayadeva ji, se karle Dashaavatar Stotram. Al samaste hochanti Jagannathankara avatar. This idea came through Jayadeva. In fact, on the western wall of the Jagannath Mandir, you will see, very interesting, Buddha avatar, the 9th avatar of Vishnu. This depiction of Kalki avatar, the 10th avatar of. So on the wall, these frescoes are there, sculptures are there. And so Buddhism becomes a part of Jagannath culture. Buddhism, as I said, and we saw also in the video, is a very ancient part of Odia culture, and sort of forgotten chapter in Odia culture. Kette tar depth thila, influence thila, we see, we are beginning to understand more and more. And it is fully part of Jagannath culture. I want to emphasize this. Why I am emphasizing this? Imagine, Jagannath is God. It's a theistic tradition. It's a bhakti tradition. We worship Jagannath as the Lord. Buddhism is an agnostic religion. So the Ishwara Manantini, Bhagavan Manantini. Now this, even the eternal Atma, they don't accept that. This religion, which seems so alien to the Hindu ethos, is still part of the Hindu ethos, is still part of Jagannath culture. You see the vastness, the syncretic nature, the richness of the Jagannath culture. I was recently in Rome, in the Vatican. So they were celebrating something called Nostra Aetate, some interfaith conference was there. So a conference re, a scholar, a lady, Italian, se kochanti, how can you have a religion without God? In Odisha, in India, we understand that. Buddhism is a religion. It's without God. See, Professor Kochanti, in that conference, she is saying, of course, Buddhism is not really a religion. So I was sitting there and looking, there were Cambodian Buddhist monk, a delegate. I was looking at him and saying, Buddhism is not really a religion. They don't understand. Say, Buddhi Parantini. Religion means God for them. But our conception of religion is very, very vast. You can be spiritual by believing in and worshipping God, or you can be spiritual by self-inquiry. Who am I? Inquiry into yourself. Buddhism, Jainism, most ancient traditions, and ye ghati thila. Odisha, the place we are standing in now. So this tremendous breadth of spirituality. You believe in God. America to introduce Hinduism to sometimes to school kids. So I always say, whatever question you can ask about Hinduism, the answer is yes and no. Do Hindus believe in God? Yes and no. There are Hindu philosophies like Sankhya which are agnostic or atheistic. Is God with form? So Hindu mane murti puja karchanti. Yes and no. Upon Chidambaram jantu, there the Shivalinga is space, Akasha, formless. Every aspect in the mantras chanted before Sri Jagannath with Sakar and Nirakar also. Shunya Rupa, adopted from Shunyavada Buddhism, and is chanted before Lord Jagannath. So the idea is, yes, God can be with form, and no, God is also formless. At Tankopai in the West, God is always male, has to be masculine. So is God male? We say, of course, yes, God is male, and no, God is female and proudly female. Tanko got a joke in America that I met God and she be black, in a sort of African American twang. She be black. We worship Ma Kali, so she is in the black form and she is female. But for them it is stunning that God can somehow be female. God can somehow not be white. There can be some other race. So I joke that she be black is absolutely literal description of Ma Kali. Sri Ramakrishna used to worship Ma Kali. She be black. God is black and God is female. God is beyond gender. God is transgender. We worship Shiva in the female and male form together. So these ideas are all part of Hinduism and all part of the extremely rich and vast Jagannath culture. And Jagannath culture is the center of the Odia spirit. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, as many zeros as you put, they have no value until you put one. The one has value. After that you add zeros, they will all have value. Then he did not explain what is 1 and 0. But it means this. The one in our personal life, community life, national life, the one should be a spiritual center. Whatever center, but whatever spiritual tradition you have, but it should be a spiritual center. And all the zeros around it. You have politics, you have media, you have education, you have defense and entertainment and sports, whatever else you do, family and money making, all of that, all of them are zeros by themselves. But if you add it to that one, they all get value. So that one we have always had in Odisha. About last 1,000 years, a kind of decline and passing into obscurity. Odisha, I remember, even when I was growing up, it was the poorest state. Amaku social studies, economics se padha hotala. So, poorest state, one of the poorest parts of India. And now see, in one generation, we have seen, those who are of my generation and earlier generation, we have seen a tremendous change in Odisha now. The change is not, this is just the beginning. Swami Vivekananda said, I have seen the India of the future future India rising, which will outshine all its past glories. And this you see all around India, it's just the beginning. And you see it in Odisha also. And it is an awakening of the people. It's a kind of bottom-up awakening of the spirit of the people. When Swami Vivekananda would say, arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached. See, asile USA ru ferile with Sister Nivedita. Se jahajaru dekhchunti India ko. Sister Nivedita bahut sunichanti India ro glory visare from Swami Vivekananda. And she says, oh Swami, how peaceful. Se jahajaru dekhchunti Indian coastline. Swami Vivekananda virakta hai ki tanku, he scolded her. He said, this is not peace. It is the peace of the grave. It's a colonized country. People are superstitious. They are starving. They are uneducated. Kichi jivan asa nahi, so it seems peaceful. It's a tamasic peace. He says, I don't want that. I want the country to arise into a spirit of dynamism, of achievement. Then only progress is possible. Education. Swami Vivekananda Kochanti. In all the cities of the West, I went around thinking, what is the difference between here and in my country? He said, the answer I got was education, education, and education alone. With education, he says, the spirit in the human being is roused. Then only, he says, a nation is possible. So, those words, more than 100 years ago, a colonized country to India was looked down upon. But today we see, 100 years, more than 100 years later, those words are coming true. There is a sea change in India, a sea change, and more especially in Odisha. And this is unstoppable. This is unstoppable. The spirit of the people has been awakened. Let me introduce you to an ancient term. When I was researching for this talk, Purushottama Samrajya, this term I found. More than 1,000 years ago in the Ganga dynasty, before the Gajapatis, in that dynasty they used this term for Odisha. This is the empire of Jagannath. It's Jagannathankara Rajya. And the name they gave was Purushottama Samrajya. And I feel Purushottama Samrajya is not only Odisha, it is India. The spirit of Jagannath, the spirit of Odisha is the actual ancient spirit of India, which is all embracing, which is extremely comfortable indeed, welcoming diversity, which is cosmopolitan, which is deeply spiritual, and yet open to all kinds of progress in education, in economy, in every sphere of life. So this Purushottama Samrajya and the Jagannath culture, I put it to you, this is not only the spirit of Odisha, around which the Odia Asmita should be built, but also the underlying spirit of India. This is what we stand for. This is the true nature of India. Many other wonderful things I can talk about. For example, the growth of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I should mention before ending. Of course, golden episode in Jagannath culture. So by the time the Gajapatis came, in that lineage, about 600 years ago, Prataprudra, Gajapati Prataprudra was there. He was a great devotee of Jagannath. And during his time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came from Nadia in Bengal and settled down here. For 24 years, till the end of his life, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lived in Puri Kshetra, in Sri Kshetra. And it was an upsurge of Krishna Bhakti. By that time, Jagannath, Purushottama, and Sri Krishna and Radha, they became identified. And it led to the development of Pare Kuhagala Gaudiya Vaishnava culture. So that's another school of Vedanta called Achinta Bhedaved Vedanta. And Gaudiya Vaishnava culture, many may not have heard the name, but everybody has heard the name ISKCON. So, jo Prabhupada Gale from Bengal to New York. So I've come from New York, that is the connection. He belonged to that Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition. And he started this organization. So this thing is spread all over the world, the Society for Krishna Consciousness. It started in New York. And they all come to Jagannath Puri. Now, unfortunately, for whatever reason, white people are not allowed to enter into Jagannath Puri, but they are genuine devotees of Sri Jagannath. And they are happy. Bahar uchi darshan, bhitar bhi pravesh kare to allow kara hue nahi. But they are very happy to stand outside, Cheti Mundiya Marive, and they do their kirtan and all that. So that is another aspect of Jagannath culture which is spread all over the world. One more word and I will conclude. There was another development which is not well known and deserves to be better known. There is an Odia Vaishnavism, not just Gaudiya Vaishnavism, Bengal school of Vaishnavism, but the Odisha school of Vaishnavism, which has its own unique philosophy and practice, which developed Pancha Sakha Koha Jaitala, the Vaishnavas, Param Vaishnavas. On their writings and philosophy, the Odia Vaishnavism has developed. Some of the rituals are come from this school in Jagannath Puri. There are so many things to say. Ek khandua diya jai to Sri Jagannath, the silk cloth. There you will see writing. And that writing is from the Gita Govinda of Jayadeva. So this is part of the tradition there. In the Odia school of Vaishnavism, Radha and Krishna, they become the Jivatma and Paramatma. The love between Radha and Krishna becomes the love between you and God. And the temple of Jagannath becomes the body. Your body is the temple of Jagannath. In this temple of Jagannath, Radha and Krishna are there. Jivatma and Paramatma are there. And the love between Jivatma and Paramatma is being played out here. The Goloka, the Vrindavana, Nitya Vrindavana, according to the Odia school of Vaishnavism, is Puri Kshetra, where the eternal Ras Leela between Radha and Krishna is going on. So these are some of the unique aspects. Another aspect, nowhere found. In the Odia school of Vaishnavism, Buddhism is included. It is so interesting and stunning from a philosophical perspective. Buddha Jagannatha, Aleka Purusha, Shunya Aleka Purusha. They are the same. The Madhyamaka Shunyavada school of Nagarjuna, who is also a neighboring, he was from, he is Telugu, from Andhra. The Shunyavada school of Nagarjuna and the completely theistic Vaishnava Bhakti, they are united. This is only possible in India. Je Ishwara Vishwas Karuchya Karuni, duita ko misei douchandi Jagannath re. And that is another feature of the Odia school of Vaishnavism. Anyway, I have said enough. I hope I have given us a glimpse into the extraordinary spiritual depth of Sri Jagannath, the extraordinary richness and broadness, the breadth of Jagannath culture, which is a message for present-day India and for the future of India and the world. The ability to accept. I will tell you one interesting reason. The reason I was in the Vatican a few weeks back, Interfaith Conference. Apna sunila hasibe kon pai conference hochi. Semane 1965 re the Catholic Church agreed finally 2000 barsha pare there is some truth in other religions. Mu jane sannyasi ko phone karchi se Banaras re se Rome ru. Kochi Maharaj emane manuchanti je apna jo sikhauchanti Vedanta ta bhitere kichi kinchi matra satya achi bi. Se hasuchanti bahut kripa hai unka. So that it is very difficult for them to accept anything other than their own religion. And slowly they are moving in the right direction. And so we must encourage that. But what they are saying, it's just child's play for people in Jagannath culture in India and Hinduism. We accept it. It's very, very natural for us. And this is very much necessary for a cosmopolitan world. That's why Vivekananda said, if India lives, who dies? If India dies, who lives? In that sense, that India is yes, indeed we make applaud. India is this this syncretic culture and a model for the world, how to live with extremely diverse points of view. America, it's a free society, but I live there. I am seeing what's happening. It's like a society trying to tear itself apart now. And the reason is, you may have all the free speech, you may have all the democratic ideals, but inner spiritual ideal, if it is exclusive, that I am right and you are wrong. Vice President Vance, see recent interview re कहउछंती I am Christian, amor Asha, my wife Usha, who is Hindu, that I hope she will be converted to Christianity very soon. I mean, India रे भाभी पारी उन इंटेलिजेंस के कोई बोली, and that is the beauty of the Jagannath culture. So prayers to Sri Jagannath. Thanks to the Sambad group and to Kanak News for organizing this wonderful conclave. This is the first time I'm beginning to see this new trend, as Swami Babu just said. And I'm very happy to see this. My prayers to Sri Jagannath to bless all of us.